My dear students, welcome to my online class. I am Dr. Moushumi Taher Asha, Associate Professor, Department of Anatomy, Boshundhara Ad-Din Medical College, South Keranigঞ্জ, Dhaka. Today, I am going to discuss with you about the digestive glands of the human body. On the screen, now you can see what are the digestive glands present in our body. That is, digestive gland associated with the alimentary canal includes salivary gland, liver, pancreas, gastric gland and the intestinal gland. The most important digestive glands are liver, pancreas and the salivary gland. Now we want to know what are the functions of the digestive gland. These glands aid the process of ingestion, digestion and absorption. Each of these organs either secretes or stores substances that passes through the duct into the alimentary canal. In our body, largest digestive gland is the liver. Liver is reddish brown in color, wedge shaped, feels rubbery to touch. Liver moves with respiration. Normally, we can feel the liver because it is protected by the rib cage. The absolute weight of the liver is slightly different in case of male and in case of female. In case of male, it is about 1.4 to 1.8 kg and in case of female, it is about 1.2 to 1.4 kg. But at birth, it is about 150 gram. Liver is more large in children due to hemopoietic function in fetal life and occupies about 2/5 of the abdomen. Now we want to know what are the functions of the liver. Bile production and excretion, excretion of the bilirubin, cholesterol, hormone and drugs, metabolism of the fat, protein and carbohydrate, enzyme activation, storage of glycogen, vitamins and minerals, synthesis of plasma protein such as albumin and clotting factors. In this function, there are some exocrine and endocrine part. Within the exocrine part, liver secretes bile which is conveyed by the biliary passage, and in endocrine part, it liberates some useful chemical substances such as glucose from the glycogen, most of the plasma protein and heparin directly into the bloodstream. Right here on the screen, you can see the figure of the liver. The liver has a two lobe, you see here, right lobe, left lobe, and there is, and the anterior surface, there is one ligament, that is important one ligament, that is called falciform ligament. First, we want to know how liver hold in anatomical position. On the posterior aspects of the liver, there is a presence of the vertical groove, that is the groove for inferior vena cava. The inferior vena cava groove lies posteriorly and directed vertically. The superior surface of the liver is convexo-concavo-convex, which is directed upwards. Larger right lobe is higher than the left lobe, and the attachment of the sickle shaped falciform ligament is right to the median plane. These all is the anatomical position of the liver. Now, where liver is situated? Within the abdomen. In the abdomen, liver is located on the whole of the right hypochondrium, part of the epigastric region and part of the left hypochondrium up to the left lateral plane. Here on the screen, you can see the location of the liver. There is a 9 region present within the abdomen. What are the factors maintain or keep the liver in position? There are some factors, that is hepatic vein which drain into the inferior vena cava, intra-abdominal pressure and some ligaments which is attached with the liver to the other organ. Here we can see the surfaces and borders of the liver. Here is the inferior surface of the liver and it is the exit passage for the bile. There are 3 borders and mainly 2 surfaces. Borders are the posterior superior border, posterior inferior border and the sharp inferior border, and the surfaces are superior surface, anterior surface, right lateral surface and posterior surface. These surfaces are included within the diaphragmatic surface, and another surface is the separate surface, that is visceral surface or the inferior surface. On the screen you can see this is the superior surface, this is the right lateral surface and it is the anterior surface, and other slide we can see the another two surfaces. This is the picture of the posterior surface of the liver. On the posterior surface there are some features or some related structure, important related structure present here. On the posterior surface there is the non-peritoneal area, that is called the Baer area. The Baer area is triangular in shape, so it has apex and base. On the apex it is formed by the right triangular ligament and base is formed by the inferior vena cava, and the upper and lower part of the Baer area is formed by the superior and inferior layer of the coronary ligament. Just right to the or left to the Baer area there is a present for groove for the inferior vena cava. On the left to the inferior vena cava there is another lobe, that is called caudate lobe. The boundaries of the caudate lobe, on the right that is vena caval groove, on the left fissure for ligamentum venosum, above posterior superior border, and in the below there is a presence of the porta hepatis. Lower part of the caudate lobe presents two processes, that is caudate process and the papillary process. The caudate lobe is the only part of the liver which is covered with the peritoneum of the lesser sac. Left to the caudate lobe there is a presence of the fissure for the ligamentum venosum which lodges ligamentum venosum, and left to that there is a presence of the groove for the inferior vena cava. Here you can see the posterior surface of the liver and the impression of the inferior vena cava. Posterior superior surface is separated from the superior surface by the posterior superior border. It also separated from the inferior surface by the posterior inferior border. Here you can see the picture of the superior surface of the liver. Superior surface is convexo-concavo-convex. Just above this surface there is a presence of the dome of the diaphragm. Just above the right and left dome of the diaphragm there is a presence corresponding lung and pleura, and in the middle part there is a depression, that there is a presence central tendon of the diaphragm. Just above the central tendon there is a presence of the fibrous pericardium with the inferior surface of the heart and the pericardial sac. On the depressed area on the superior surface there is a divergence of the falciform ligament. The most important surface is the right lateral surface. You have to know this surface, and it is also important for your OSPE and the Viva. The right lateral surface is extend from the 7th to 8th rib along the mid axillary line up to the 8th rib, lower border of the right lung and pleural sac. It is the upper third, and up to the 10th rib it is related to the costodiaphragmatic recess of the right pleura, that is middle third, and up to the 11th rib no lung and no pleura. It is directly contact with the diaphragm. It is very important clinically because needle biopsy of the liver through the 9th or 10th intercostal space at the mid axillary line during forced expiration occur. Here you can see the figure of the right lateral surface. Another important surface is the visceral surface, because here is very some important organ are related here from the left to right, and the upper part there is the esophageal impression, and the just below the esophageal impression there is a presence of the gastric impression which is related to the fundus and body of the stomach. And just right to that there is a presence of the caudate process and the papillary process. and here is the presence of the fissure for the ligamentum teres hepatis, and here is the presence porta hepatis, and here is another lobe, that is quadrate lobe. What are the boundaries of the quadrate lobe? On the right side there is a fossa for gallbladder, on the left side ligamentum teres hepatis, above porta hepatis and below sharp inferior border. In this area, here we can relate it right and first and second part of the duodenum and the transverse colon. The colic impression here present right colic flexure, and within the renal impression it is related to the suprarenal, right suprarenal gland and the right kidney. Here we can want to know what is porta hepatis. It is a transverse fissure and acts as a gateway of the liver. It separates the caudate lobe above and quadrate lobe below. What are the structures entering through the porta hepatis? Right and left branches of the hepatic artery, right and left division of the portal vein, and the hepatic plexus of nerve, and right and left hepatic duct, cystic duct and lymphatics plexus are exit through the porta hepatis. But porta hepatis is known as the false gateway. Why? Because hepatic vein is only drain into the inferior vena cava. It does not enter through or exit through the porta hepatis. We can divide the liver into right lobe and left lobe. There is a presence of the fissure, H-shaped fissure. The extension of the fissure, the right sagittal fissure is present, or fossa extension from groove for the inferior vena cava to the fossa for the gallbladder, and the left sagittal fissure extends from the ligamentum venosum to the round ligament of the liver. Round ligament of the liver is the ligamentum teres hepatis, and the transverse fissure is the porta hepatis. So, it is the H-shaped fissure. How? We can divide the liver into right and left lobe by physiologically and anatomically. Physiologically, liver is divided into right and left lobe by an imaginary line. That line extends from the groove for inferior vena cava to the fossa for the gallbladder posteriorly, and anteriorly it passes just right to the median of the falciform ligament. This imaginary line is known as cholecystosvenocaval line or Cantley's line. And anatomically, liver is divided by anteriorly falciform ligament, not only anteriorly and superiorly by the falciform ligament, and posteriorly by the fissure for ligamentum venosum and the fissure for ligamentum teres. That is, 5/6 of the liver is from the right lobe anatomically, and 1/6 of the liver forms the left lobe. Here you can see how anatomically right and left lobe liver is divided. There is one another lobe, that is called Riedel's lobe. Riedel's lobe is the tongue-like projection, extends just below the lower border of the liver and just below the right costal margin. Another one important topics that is important for the surgeon, that is segments of the liver. Liver has divided into 8 segments by the portal and hepatic vein. In the widely used conoid system of the anatomy of the liver, the physiological lobes are further divided into total 8 segments based on the transverse plane through the bifurcation of the main portal vein. Here, the caudate lobe is the separate structure which receives blood flow from both the right and left sided vascular branches. Caudate lobe is defined as the segment 1, and the remaining segments are numbered in a clockwise manner up to segment 8. Each segment has its own vascular flow and outflow and the biliary passage. In the center of each segment, there is a branch of the portal vein, hepatic artery and the bile duct. To preserve the viability of the liver following surgery, resections follow the vessels defining the peripheries of each segment. This means that resection lines parallel the hepatic vein, portal vein and the bile duct and hepatic artery intact. On the screen now you can see the peritoneal folds. In the liver there is a two types of fold, true fold or called true ligament and the false ligament. True ligament are the embryological remnant and the false ligament is the peritoneal fold that becomes ligament. Falciform ligament, coronary ligament, triangular ligament and the lesser omentum. We want to know the attachment of the falciform ligament. The falciform ligament is the sickle shaped ligament attaches the anterior surface of the liver to the anterior surface of the anterior abdominal wall or to the anterior abdominal wall and forms the natural anatomical division of the right and left lobe of the liver. The free edge of the ligament contain patent paraumbilical vein and the ligamentum teres hepatis, which is the remnant of the obliterated left umbilical vein. Here you can see the coronary ligament. Coronary ligament anterior and posterior fold attached to the superior surface of the liver to the inferior surface of the diaphragm and demarcated the bare area of the liver. The anterior and posterior fold unite to form the triangular ligament on the right and left lobe of the liver. Here is the right triangular ligament and here is the left triangular ligament. The left triangular ligament is formed by the union of the anterior and posterior layer of the coronary ligament at the apex of the liver and attaches the left lobe of the liver to the diaphragm. And here is the right triangular ligament. It is formed as a similar fashion adjacent to the base bare area and attaches to the right lobe of the liver to the diaphragm. And another one ligament is the lesser omentum, which attaches the liver to the lesser curvature of the stomach and the first part of the duodenum. It consists of the hepatoduodenal ligament and the hepatogastric ligament. This hepatoduodenal ligament surrounds the portal triad. Here you can see the embryological remnant, that is true ligament, ligamentum teres, obliterated left umbilical vein, and ligamentum venosum, that is ductus venosus. What are the, frequently you may ask, what are the non-peritoneal area of the liver? Non-peritoneal area of the liver, one is porta hepatis, another one is bare area of the right lobe of the liver, groove for inferior vena cava, fossa for the gallbladder and the floor of the attachment of the ligament. There are some peritoneal recess present around the liver. Above the liver there is a supraperitoneal recess and just below the liver there is a subperitoneal recess. Here is the hepatorenal recess, that is called hepatorenal pouch. This is very important because the boundaries of the hepatorenal pouch in front under surface of the right lobe of the liver, behind right kidney and the right colic flexure, above inferior layer of the coronary ligament and below the recess is open and continuous with the right paracolic gutter. On the left side, it communicates with the lesser sac through the epiploic foramen. It is clinically important because it is the most dependent peritoneal cavity or most dependent part of the upper abdomen. Here all fluids are collected here. If after some gallbladder surgery, fluid may accumulate here and when patient in sitting position, the fluid may goes to the paracolic gutter or it may goes to the lesser sac and distend the lesser sac. So, after surgery we can place the tube in this place to drain the all fluids from the hepatorenal pouch. Now, we want to know very important structure, that is biliary system. What is biliary system? This is the system consists of the channel that carries bile from the source, this being the hepatocyte all way to the gallbladder and the intestine. Here you can see the biliary system. There is two types of biliary system, that is intrahepatic biliary apparatus and the extrahepatic biliary apparatus. On next lecture, I will discuss with you about the intrahepatic, detail about the intrahepatic biliary apparatus. What are the intrahepatic biliary apparatus? That is bile canaliculi, canal of Hering, bile ductus and right and left hepatic duct. But in extrahepatic biliary apparatus are common hepatic duct, cystic duct, gallbladder and the common bile duct which open into the second part of the duodenum. In this picture you can see the extrahepatic biliary apparatus. Gallbladder. Gallbladder is a pear shaped organ. It is attached to the cystic duct and it is present at the fossa for the gallbladder in the inferior surface of the liver. On the fossa for gallbladder, it is related to the neck and body of the gallbladder, but the fundus is present just free surface just below the inferior border. The function of the gallbladder is important. It is the storage of the bile and concentrates bile 10 times and it reduces the alkalinity of the bile. And the lining epithelium of the gallbladder is the tall columnar epithelium. Here in the picture you can see the gallbladder and all the extrahepatic biliary apparatus. There are some clinical points. What is cholecystitis and what is cholecystectomy? Cholecystitis is known as the inflammation of the gallbladder and the cholecystectomy is known as the removal of the gallbladder. There are two types of cholecystectomy done in whole over the world, that is about the laparoscopic and the laparotomy. In the laparoscopic cholecystitis, here you can see the picture how laparoscopic cholecystectomy is done, and the laparotomy, when there is an adhesion occur, then the whole upper part of the abdomen is open, then the gallbladder is removed, that is laparotomy. Students, you may frequently ask about one question, that is why a referred pain is sometimes felt over the tip of the right shoulder during inflammation of the gallbladder. The answer is the gallbladder is supplied, nerve supply of the gallbladder is sympathetic via the celiac and the hepatic plexus. A few tweaks of the right phrenic nerve carrying postganglionic sympathetic fiber reach the gallbladder through the phrenic and hepatic plexus. Here you can see the another figure, that is Callot's triangle. What is Callot's triangle? The Callot's triangle is a triangular in shape. The boundaries is very important because above it is the inferior surface of the liver and on the other side there is a common hepatic duct and here is the cystic duct. And on the content of the Callot's triangle is the hepatic artery, maybe cystic artery, maybe hepatic vein. This is clinically important because when the removal of the gallbladder occur and we give a tie on the gallbladder, then we can remove the tie over the common hepatic duct and the cystic duct to avoid injury of the cystic artery and hepatic artery in this Callot's triangle. Very, very important is the blood supply of the liver or the nutritional supply of the liver. Liver is supplied by the hepatic artery and the portal vein. 25 to 35% of the oxygenated blood carried by hepatic artery to the liver and the 65 to 75% of the deoxygenated blood is carried by the portal vein. But all of the nutrients are carried by the portal vein from the intestine, spleen. These oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood going to mix within the sinusoids, and from the sinusoids it goes to the central vein. From the central vein it goes to the interlobular vein, then hepatic vein, then ultimately drain into the inferior vena cava. Here you can see the common hepatic artery, which is the branch of the celiac trunk, and then it comes from the abdominal aorta, and here you can see the formation of the portal vein. The portal vein or the hepatic portal vein is the blood vessel that carries blood from the gastrointestinal tract, gallbladder, pancreas and spleen to the liver. How portal vein is formed? Usually it is formed and just behind the neck of the pancreas, and point of entry is the porta hepatis, and it is approximately 8 centimeter in length, and it is formed by the superior mesenteric vein and the splenic vein. What are the tributaries of the portal vein? We have to know that is right and left branch of the portal vein, cystic vein, superior mesenteric vein and the inferior mesenteric vein. On last class, I discussed with you about the portosystemic anastomosis. Where are the portosystemic anastomosis occur? That is on the lower esophagus, upper anal canal, umbilicus, bare area of the liver, patent ductus venosus and the retroperitoneal. In this figure, you can see the sites of the portosystemic anastomosis. There are some clinical importance about the portosystemic anastomosis. That is, what is caput medusae? Caput medusae is the dilatation of the upper part of the superior epigastric vein or distension of the superior epigastric vein due to obstruction of the portal circulation. Here is the appearance of the distended and the engorged superficial epigastric vein, which are seen radiating from the umbilicus across the abdomen. The name caput medusa comes from the Latin, the head of the medusa, originates from the apparent similarity to the medusa's head, which lead venomous snakes in the place of the hair. And another clinical importance is the esophageal varices. In esophageal varices, there is dilatation of the esophageal vein on portal obstruction. Patients typically represents with hematemesis and black tarry stool. It can be visualized using endoscopy. And another important is hemorrhoids. Frequently we know about the hemorrhoids. What is hemorrhoids? When the portal obstruction occur and the superior rectal vein is distended at the renal column on the 6, 7 and 11 o'clock position, then it is called internal hemorrhoids or piles. Nerve supply of the liver. Liver has a stroma and the parenchyma. Stroma is made by the Gleason's capsule, which is the fibrous covering, which is supplied by the lower intercostal nerve. The distension of the capsule results in the sharp, well localized pain, and the parenchyma is supplied by the hepatic plexus, which contains sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic comes from the celiac plexus and the parasympathetic from the vagus nerve. The lymphatic drainage of the liver, anteroaspects of the liver, the hepatic lymph node, then celiac lymph node, then the cisterna chyli, and the posterior aspects of the liver by the phrenic and the posterior mediastinal node, we join the right lymphatic and the thoracic duct. There are some clinical condition with the liver, that is the fatty liver, hepatitis, liver cirrhosis, and in this condition first the jaundice appear. You can see in the screen the patient has yellowish eye within this picture, and this is the figure for the fatty liver. So, that is all for today students. Thank you very much. See you in the next class. Assalamu alaikum.